Middle Age. This work is based on Middle Age, an epoch took place from the end of 5th century, when the Roman Empire was declining, until the end of the 15th century. People in this period had a conception of novelty. For them, the world was more civilized and advanced in many ways, because in some sections of Italian society began to emulate the art and philosophy, of course literature too. So in this work we are going to talk about of literature of this area, and we will mention some important writers such as Julian of Norwich, Roger Bacon, John Wycliffe, and Geoffrey Chaucer. So we are going to listen this. Julian of Norwich was born in Norwich, Norfolk, England, probably on November 8 in 1343, and died in 1416. She was one of the most important religious writers in the Middle Age. It considers Julian of Norwich as a mystic woman. Her most famous piece of work is the 16 Revelation of Divine Love, which she wrote in 1933, and in her book she wrote these visions and her meditation about those ones. The visions were about the mysteries of Christianity, but highlighting the love of God and the existence of evil. One of the curiosities about Norwich is that in the 14th century, women didn't have access to school, or even they couldn't read or write. But Julian of Norwich curiously could write and read too. Her contribution to the literatures were totally religious, and whose writings recall the vocabulary of Apostle Paul and John, in order to researchers of theology.
Roger Bacon, known as Dr. Mirabilis, which means wonderful teacher. He was born in England, and he was known because he was an English philosopher and Franciscan. Bacon studied at Oxford, and he became a master there. And he may have been disciplined by Robert Grosset, who asked Roger to write a text about philosophy and ethics. Therefore, he created his major work was called Opus Maius, which was divided in several parts. According to Andrew Dixon, Bacon was repeatedly persuaded and imprisoned because of his position about the medieval church. Because in his text, in his book that was 840 pages, ranges over all aspects of natural science, from grammar and logic, mathematics, physics, and philosophy. While after he did the inconvenient
because he criticized Alejandro Hales, Aristotle, and other people. At the end, because Robert Grosset died, the Pope Clement in 2068, Bacon was imprisoned. When he was imprisoned and placed under house arrest, days before this, he died.
John Wycliffe was born in North Riding, Yorkshire, in 1330, and he died in 1384. He was a theologian and philosopher, translator, and a preacher too. He was an important character in the Middle Age because he helped to make the first handwritten English translation of the Bible, and he helped to spread it, or spread the translation, and it made them available. He criticized of the papacy of the clerical basis of the Catholic Church, because Wycliffe argued the Bible was the first source basis of Christianity. In May 22nd, in 1377, Papa Gregory XI, accused of heresy. In 1378, he translated the Bible in Latin, or the Vulgate, to the English. In 1979, he was against the doctrine of transubstantiation, which was a big deal. He was a contemporary of Martin Luther, and his works were the domain theory, the theory of ecclesiology, and theory of scriptures.
George Chaucer, he was the first great poet writing in English. He was a writer and poet, as I said, of Legend of Good Women, and he was born in England between the 1343 and he died on 1400. And he became the public servant to the British court. He was known because he created two major works. The first one was the Book of Duchess, also known as the Death of Blanchett. The other one is known as the Canterbury Tale, who was a collection of 20 tales related with that. The best
was in contrast of the other literature of the period of the naturalism. As was there no manuscript of the work from the late medieval and early Renaissance period, more than any other vernacular literature text. But it's taken that the tale varied in both minor and major sets from manuscript to another one, and that after Chaucer died, maybe some of them had been lost. Even the earliest surviving manuscripts are not Chaucer original.